Very, very warm welcome to everybody joining us today for our Live Well Live webinar. We are live here and it's a beautiful day. It's not raining. That has to be an absolute bonus for all of us, I would say. We've had a huge amount of rain recently, haven't we? Just for anyone who doesn't know me, I am Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor, and we bring these webinars to you every week as much as we possibly can to really support you as much as we are able on your weight loss journeys. You don't have to be on medications to join the webinar. This is for everyone, wherever you are on your weight loss journey. Also for those who are in maintenance, because that is an equally important stage of that weight loss journey as the journey of losing weight in itself. Just to let you know, if you've brought any questions along with you, please do pop them into the Q&A box. If you can see that, it should be on the bottom of your screen. That is a really helpful place for us to be able to find your questions. We will start by sharing some slides all around today, the story of thinking about meal planning and why this might be a helpful step for you to be thinking about. We have a couple of polls that we'll share with you along the way. They're again completely anonymous. It's really for our information and to get you thinking as much as anything else. If you ask us a question that sits outside of what we can safely answer during the course of the webinar, then we will direct you to the person that we think would be best for you to seek that information from. So please ask. We will just advise whether it's something we can talk about safely here or that we need to send you forward. So much ado. I don't think there's anything I need to say apart from that. So very warm welcome to you, Sanam. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Sanam. I'm one of the senior independent prescribers here at Boots Online Doctors, but also I'm one of the weight loss leads for the service here at Boots. It's
Great.
lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. And do say hello in the chat. I can see a few of you have been before and have said hello. So thanks for saying hello. We love hearing from you. We love knowing where you're from. I'm based down in Hampshire. I have had a 5 minute break in my garden and it was beautiful. The birds were going bananas. They were probably as happy as we are that it's not raining, I'm sure. So, yeah, it was great. So, do say hello and let us know. Hi from Glasgow. Hi to you, Nick and Kay in Glasgow. Hi to Sarah in cloudy South London. Hi to JM in Devon. And hello and welcome to all of you. Do let us know how you're getting on. We're going to start by checking in with you, actually. So, if you were here last week, we were talking all about cravings and how they can completely trip us up. And I think it's really important for us to remember if we're routinely having cravings, it's very often that we're craving for those particular foods or those particular treats. It's often a sign of maybe something in your terms of your emotional health. Is it an expectation? Are you missing that food? Are you feeling deprived? Are you feeling sad? Is something going on in your life that's causing those cravings? It's really important for us to be thinking about this. And if we are routinely having cravings, then it's really worth just having a look at what's going on in what we're eating every day and whether we're nailing those components of our diet that can really help us feel balanced. And that's the key, isn't it? Is about getting that balance. So we wanted to start by just checking in. Let us know if you've had any wins this week, if you found anything that's really made a difference for you. And also, we're going to quickly share a poll just to find out where you are in terms of your weight loss journeys, because it's really helpful for us to know. Not that there's a right or a wrong answer on this one. It just helps us to understand really who we got in the room today, because obviously we don't always know. So I'm going to launch this poll. So great. So we're just asking where you are in your journey. Are you starting out? Are you maintaining? Are you midway through? Each and every one of these phases, I think, come with a different set of challenges in a way. I don't think you'd agree, wouldn't you, Sanam? We speak a lot to our patients who are on these weight loss journeys, and we know all of them bring challenges. Starting out, we tend to think we've got way more motivation. Midway through, we know that motivation can be really hard and people have problems with plateaus. And that whole maintenance, it's a story that we don't talk about enough. It's as important a stage in that weight loss journey as the weight loss journey itself. And I think this is what we're beginning to really understand and want to support people throughout that whole journey and into maintenance to make this successful for you long term. So, thank you for sharing. I can see from those of you that have answered, about 20% of you are in fact in maintenance. So, welcome and well done for getting there and for staying there, hopefully. Around equal split between those of you that are just starting out and those that are midway through. So, very warm welcome to you. And do let us know if you've got any questions. It's really helpful for us to understand that. So, we're going to talk about why meal planning matters. So, we have another poll just to keep you thinking and to keep us thinking too. We want to know now whether this is something you do, whether it's something you're familiar about. And I'm just going to launch a very simple poll. There's no right or wrong answers here. And again, hopefully this is launching, although it looks like the polls are now completely playing up. Let's have a look. How interesting. Maybe I need to end one poll before I start another. There you go. That would explain a lot. Grand. Okay, so we're now launching this poll, just asking you where you're at in terms of whether this is something you do, whether it's something you find helpful, whether it's something you've thought about but not currently doing, not on your radar at all. Again, there's no right or wrong answers here. This is about you, it's about your journey, and it's about us thinking about how we can help you make these journeys really successful. And don't forget, we're human too. So, do you meal plan, Sanam? Let's have a little check in with you while people are answering this poll.
I actually don't, but actually
Hey,
that I have tried, and I do, that's one thing I probably after this I'll probably be meal planning too. So yeah,
I think
unfortunately
I'm a
not at
bit
the moment.
inconsistent. I have weeks when this works brilliantly and weeks where I go off track. So I think for me,
Yeah.
consistency maybe is something I need to be aiming a little bit more for. And we've got Adna with us today. I'd love to hear from you, Adna, too, whether there's something you do. I know you're very good at getting to the gym regularly. So is meal planning part of your week? We'd love to hear. So let us see what everyone's saying. So about 20% of you meal planning every week find it helpful. 55% doing it but struggling to stay consistent. So you can put me in that bracket too.
Mm.
17% who rarely and tend to decide what to eat in the moment. And a lot of people feel a little bit overwhelmed with the idea of meal planning. So hopefully we can get rid of that overwhelm and maybe think about whether this is something that could be helpful to you. So now we're going to talk about why we think this might be a helpful strategy to think about. So we know that planning can really help get rid of all of the decisions around food. And one of the things that we talk about in our webinars is that motivation, the energy to maintain that focus on weight loss. It can come and go, it can ebb and flow. We can have moments where we feel very energized, very motivated. We can have moments when life completely derails us. And there's a lot of stress going on either at home or at work or in your friends or family. And actually, that stress can be a really derailing factor and it can take us completely off piece, can't it? Let's be honest, we're all human. We all know that this is true. And we also know that we can get this thing called decision fatigue. So we can start out great timing on a Monday morning, full of energy and zest for, oh, it's a new week. I'm going to have my best week ever. I'm refocusing. I'm going to feel fantastic. I'm going to get it all right. But even by Monday afternoon, it's been a particularly heavy day with work, with life. That motivation can start dwindling. That sort of like absolute clarity that you had at 7 o'clock in the morning is completely beginning to drift away. And by Tuesday, Wednesday, that can just drift further and further. This is why meal planning can be so important because when we're fatigued, we can't keep making decisions. We can't keep thinking, okay, what can I possibly eat? What's going to fit with what I want to achieve? How is this going to work for me? I've only got this or that in my fridge. How can I pull something together that's relatively healthy, that's going to make me feel full and not leave me feeling starving, hungry, or that the rest of the family are going to eat? It can become quite a big problem, can't it? So, why we think meal planning is really important is it can be really helpful for all of the reasons on the slide. It can help us in terms of providing a meal or a menu that helps to stabilize our blood sugar. Now, that's one of the things that we think, and the research tells us, is really important in terms of just getting that balance, getting rid of those cravings, just making us feel a sense of energy throughout the day and for the rest of the week. So, this is crucial. It also can help us become a little bit more regulated in terms of our appetite. So we really know that's important. And it can help us gradually bring in healthy foods. They may be something that you're really familiar with. They may be something that you're just dipping your toe in the water with. It isn't about perfection. We are not here saying we all have to be perfect, but it's about putting the foods in your meal plan that you want to see there and making them be a realistic part of your week. And we know that it helps us feel calmer, it can help us feel in control, it takes away the thinking. And actually, we all have a huge amount of thinking to do every day. So, less thought means that we're more likely to stay on track. It can just make it so much more simple. Hopefully, that makes sense. For me, this makes absolute sense. And what we thought we would do is we think that this works really well with our core meal plan. So, Adna, if you can share the core meal plan and the core GLP-1 meal plan, that would be your meal planner. That would be really helpful because we need to be meal planning around tools that are going to help this really be sustainable and simple. So, have a look at those as well. So, that would be great if you can share those. So, Sanam, let's go for it.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about sort of portion control, which is more sort of based around sort of calorie intake and calorie counting. So what we recommend is that you move away from calorie counting, because for most people, it's a bit of a chore. If when I've calorie counted, it's such a chore to sort of figure out, how to get my 1,500 or 1,200 calories in the day and what to eat. And actually, it takes a lot more planning, I think, than sort of making sure that you're eating the right foods. So as is not going to be the same. So it really does depend on what food you're eating. And portion control is often misunderstood. What we want to do is it's not about restriction, losing weight is not about restriction, it's about getting enough of the right foods. So what we talk about when we mean right foods would be your protein, fiber, and healthy fats, which all support satiety. So again, when we compare sort of that 100 calories from that bar of chocolate and the 100 calories from maybe something rich in protein and fiber, the protein and fiber 100 calories is going to keep you full for longer. You're going to want to naturally just feel fuller for longer and better for you when it comes to actually having a long-term plan in what you're going to eat. And this will also help reduce your cravings, so stop you reaching for those snacks and those sort of sugary foods and stuff. So sort of step away from the calorie counting and move towards eating the right foods and putting those into your sort of meal plans as well. Don't know, what do you think about that, Ruth? Is it doable?
I think it is doable. I think it just takes time, and I guess we're all creatures of habit as well. So, maybe learning new habits is part of this process too. I noticed somebody said that they really struggle with lunches, so we can have a think about what you might want to think about eating at lunchtime and maybe come up with some ideas towards the end of the webinar. Or if anybody's got some top tips, then do share. For me, leftovers are a really quick and easy lunch, and I often rely on those in the week just simply because it's time efficient and also just quite tasty. And also, it gets me away from eating sandwiches, which are the next easy go-to thing, which I know just don't really work for me. They don't help me feel full, they don't leave me feeling satisfied, and they will lead me into wanting to nibble the wrong things in the afternoon. So I know it's about finding your things, isn't it? Finding your foods. So, looking at that core meal plan structure, we've shared the link in the chat box. So, do have a look at that if it's not familiar to you. We really like this very simple tool because it's very important for us to find simple things that help us get it right. And so this is why we've created this core meal plan. So really you want to be thinking about the fiber component going on your plate and the protein component going on your plate. So with the fiber, you want that to be from vegetables as much as you possibly can. It can be vegetables you're familiar with, it can be a mix and a match, it doesn't matter, I think. We're not talking about creating gourmet meals here. We're talking about getting the right foods on your plate. And I think there's a complete difference between the two. We don't need to be chefs to get this right. And I think maybe we need to really acknowledge that. So half your plate needs to be covered in colourful vegetables. The colourful vegetables are full of phytonutrients that help you get over colds and flu and things like that. So I'm loading them in. And then also the fibre from those foods helps to keep you feel full. It feeds your gut microbiome. It is a really important element of health. A quarter, maybe a palm-sized portion of protein. So think about the palm, the depth of your palm, and then think about the amount of protein. So we recommend something around a gram of protein per kilogram of your body weight. So if you were weighing, for example, 80 kilos, then you'd want 80 grams a day. So that 80 grams you would divide down into 3 meals. So around 27, 20, something like that, 25, 27 grams of protein per meal. We also have a protein document. So Adna, if you could share that, that would be really great. Just so that we can see so that makes it simple for you to see where the protein comes from and how much of a food portion is actually protein. For an animal-based protein, it's usually around a third to a quarter of that weight of the food. So it's really helpful to begin to visualize this. So no fussiness, no difficulty, just think about it. And then layer in a little bit of a healthy fat. It could be some avocado, it could be some olive oil, it could be a few nuts or seeds. Those are the things that bring in the healthy fat. It could be that your protein is an oily fish, in which case you've hit two nails with one hammer. You've got the protein and the fat in one go. It's very flexible and very adaptable. So we don't need to weigh, we don't need to track. Sometimes if you're getting your head around how much protein works for you in your body at this point in time, it is worth just weighing to get a sense of perspective around what that looks like. But we don't recommend you do this all of the time because it's boring and it's not really sustainable. So it's about becoming confident with what works for you on your plate and getting rid as much as you can of the rigid rules. Would you agree with that, Sanam? I think this is so important.
Yeah, I think once you familiarize yourself with sort of how much, like you said, how much protein certain foods have them in them, then it becomes a lot easier to incorporate those into your meals and make your sort of doing your meal prep a little bit easier because you sort of roughly know you don't, like I say, you don't have to calorie count and know exactly how many calories are in certain portions of food. It's just about getting those right foods in, which again will make you feel fuller for longer. Then you won't be reaching for snacks and you'll notice that the weight will start to drop off anyway
Yeah.
without sort of because calorie counting isn't sort of sustainable anyway. But I
No,
mean that
generally
moves
not.
us.
Somebody's asking, somebody's just asked in the chat box whether to eat their high protein meals earlier in the day. We recommend you pop protein into every meal of the
Mm,
day. So you really want to be thinking that this is your plate and that this is how it looks for every meal. Obviously, the foods that you put on the plate will vary, but where the protein comes from varies. But we want you to be thinking, okay, protein always, nail the protein, nail the fiber, put in those healthy fats every time you eat, just to get that balance. That really helps in terms of energy and brain energy. Goodness me. Yeah.
gives you that energy level so you're not sort of sluggish throughout the day when you tend to reach for those sort of snacky, sugary snacks and stuff as well. So I mean what we say is that prepping ahead removes that sort of friction that you might get. Um, and once it becomes something that you're doing routinely, it can make enormous amount of difference. So getting rid of those moments when you can't think of what to eat. And, if you're busy, you've come home from work, you're really tired, you've had a tough day, not a great day at work, and then having to sort of think what you're going to now make for the evening meal that's going to be healthy. It becomes really difficult, especially on those busy days. And that's when you end up reaching for those foods that, aren't as nutritious and won't keep you that full and not the right foods that you should be eating. So it's about making those ch healthy choices easier for you. So when we talk about meal prep, that's what it aims to do. So make those healthy choices. So when you are on those tired days, once you've meal prepped at maybe the beginning of the week or maybe twice a week, you sort of know that actually I've got things around me which I can eat, which are healthy and nutritious. So it's making it easier for you to make those healthy choices. So it's not about cooking everything from scratch, it's just more about small prep creates a big impact. So just small amounts of preparation, it gives you sort of like, those nutritious meals and sort of quick wins and stuff there as well. So it doesn't mean you have to cook from scratch every single day, which if you're coming home from work tired every single day is going to be really difficult. What do you think, Ruth?
I think simplicity is an absolute key aspect, and I think this is why meal planning is something we think. Well, we spoke about this a while ago, didn't we, Sanam, as being like a really key aspect that can really make a difference. The not being in the situation of having to sort of just think on your feet all the time about what you're going to eat next. And also, one of the things about food noise, and we know with GLP-1s, a lot of people say that one of the things GLP-1s help with is that food noise. But actually, meal prepping can also help with food noise because you don't have to keep repeatedly thinking several times a day, what am I going to eat next? It's sort of like laid out for you. Even if you start by meal planning 3 days and you repeat that twice in a week, it's really simple. You don't have to be eating a gourmet meal every meal. You might enjoy cooking from scratch and really bringing all of those flavors together. That's great. And if you have those kitchen skills, then go for it. But if you're someone who really struggles with how that all comes together, don't overwhelm yourselves. This isn't about being a perfect chef. It's just about simplicity. It's about stopping us having to think all the time about what's going to happen next, because I think that can be really overwhelming, can't it? And exhausting, actually. So keep it simple, helps our lives work, helps life fall into place, hopefully, a little bit more easily. And exactly that. I really passionately believe that we don't need to be chefs. I'm certainly not. I'm lucky I can do some basic cooking. We have a lot of very basic stuff in my household, but it's generally from scratch just because that's how I prefer. But it's simple, quite satisfying, and generally people are fairly well nourished. So that's it. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to get complex. We really know that becoming too complex can become very overwhelming. So just add those simple foods onto your meal plan. Choose the foods you like, start there, chuck them down, think how many days a week would I like to eat this particular food? There you go, bing bang bosh. It is really, really simple. Yeah.
I think talking about, sort of what sort of influences are supposed to eat certain foods as well. So we're always surrounded by lots of images of food. So if you go, if you're a big TikTok user or Instagram, you always get those recipes popping up all the time. They always look so delicious and stuff, and you're thinking, oh, I need to make one of those. So sort of raises the expectations of having to trying to make one of those sort of dishes. And remember, the clip is probably about 30 seconds long, but they probably took a lot longer to make it. But it seems very simple, and you always feel like, oh, I want my meals to look like that as well. And we're all surrounded by constant food images that increase our appetite as well. So it's quite well known that sort of these food images constantly actually make us hungrier. So it makes us want to eat those as well. So it's probably what our brain's telling us that we're seeing that all, a lot on the sort of images on sort of TikTok or wherever. And it makes us more dissatisfied with what we're eating. So when you see these lovely, delicious meals and you think, oh, wow, that looks amazing. So then, obviously they say these are very healthy and everything, but then you feel like, actually, I need to make that as well because that's what I need to do to make sure I get this lovely, nutritious meal. But what we would do is probably encourage less inspiration, which sounds bad, but no, actually, more implementation and less inspiration. So, it doesn't have to be, like Ruth said, anything complex. You just need that nutritious aspect of your food. You don't need to make it look, glamorous like you might see on images and stuff. You just need to make sure it's simple and create, contains those nutritious like fibers, proteins that you need in your meals and make your plates look like they should. It doesn't have to look like a gourmet meal. So I think that might help with some people, make it a bit easier to sort of meal prep and stuff as well. Because if you're having to think about coming home every day and trying to create something that looks like a lovely plate, probably not something I would do.
You're me.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just not realistic, is it?
Yeah.
So, well, I think start by thinking, what is it your family and you enjoy eating? Everyday meals are not social media meals, or maybe they should be. I think we should have a real meal channel and just throw on some photographs of what real food looks like that hasn't been photoshopped. And just remember, healthy foods need to just fit into real lives. So you start here, think about what proteins you can create. Could you cook some eggs in advance, have some in the fridge ready to eat so you can just eat them cold or pop them into recipes or chicken or beans or lentils. It really is whichever foods you enjoy eating. With your vegetables, you can have them washed, you can have them chopped, you can have them ready to use. Okay, the nutritional element of them is best when they're freshly prepared, but it's still way, way better than sort of reaching for something that doesn't have those vegetables in. So you can also chop and chuck them in the freezer if you're lucky enough to have a freezer. So again, that can be really easy. And then our carbohydrates, maybe the smaller component of what we want to see on our plate when we're on a weight loss journey, but they can be there. We need a little bit of carb for the energy, so some whole grain rice. You can batch cook, you can portion. I can see somebody said they make a nice vegetable and lentil soup at the weekends and they portion it down for the week. That's absolutely brilliant. This is what we're talking about. It's so simple, so well done for doing that. And then sauces and dressings, really simple. They don't have to be sugary. If you can manage some homemade varieties, they generally have less of the additives in, less sugar in than we would when we're buying them. So again, they can be really simple. Use herbs, maybe just start with a couple of herbs that you like, pop them in. It really adds to the flavour. And then some snack ideas. Again, you can make ahead, you can make lovely protein balls. They are such a treat. So maybe not something that we would have every day, but you could portion up little portions of some nuts. So again, it's just there. It's just grabbable. It's just really simple. Some dried apricots and hummus, all of these things, they're all there, very, very simple, very easy for us to carry through. So think about it. It is not complicated. So hopefully this is making it more accessible.
And you mentioned just like sort of chopping up vegetables and stuff like that. You can even portion yourself up sort of like little mini trays, really. So we're going to talk about sort of like one tray dishes where you can get your vegetables, put your olive oil, put your protein. Then actually, when you're really tired, you just put it in the oven and just need to wait for it to cook. So that's one sort of easy sort of way. And just if you have everything chopped up and ready, then it's easy just to bung together, really. In either sort of like a one tray, one pan, just make one decision and that's it. So it makes it quite a lot easier. So we say normally lower the barrier. So don't think that every day I need to spend half an hour cooking or an hour cooking. What I want to do is, make a achievable 10-minute achievable type of thing. So it's not taking you long every day. So the daunting task is sometimes having to think, oh, I'm going to now have to spend another half an hour sort of cooking and stuff. But we want to sort of lower that barrier, make it 10 minutes and get something sort of done within that time. And that will help you build that momentum as well. So sort of get going. So actually, I did it in 10 minutes and that was a good meal. That's a very nutritious meal and that will build up that momentum. And this helps support that consistency, sort of knowing that's achievable. And actually you are getting a nutritious sort of meal out of it. And that could carry over for the following day and the following day. So that should hopefully help with building that sort of momentum. So I mean, sort of like a couple of ideas we do have on there is sort of like, if you do have extra protein left over for dinner, you can use that for the next day. I think like Ruth mentioned, leftovers is always really a great thing. So when somebody mentioned lunches, that is normally quite a thing. Even if you take out the protein for whatever's left over and you want to quickly whip up something, that's normally quite good as well. And sort of like eggs as well, good protein addition. Just like preparing sort of overnight oats, which are really good quick win as well, very nutritious. We'll go on to later on how to sort of shop around that as well, but they're quite good ones where you can put stuff in the freezer and then take it out and use it for overnight oats and stuff like that. So small efforts and big returns.
Small efforts, big returns. We like that. Yeah. So again, consistency. You don't have to be perfect. Really, eat with a blindfold, enjoy your food, enjoy the flavors. Don't worry that it doesn't look something that everybody else would like to eat, as long as you do. I think that's it. And really just make it something that's sustainable. Plan for enjoyment as much as anything. And we were looking at the research, and the research says completely that if you're the more we watch these cooking programs, the more we are likely to eat and the more calories we're likely to consume. So maybe there's actually something to be said for simplicity in food the majority of the time and keeping those really beautiful meals, the really glamorous meals for those special occasions.
Mm. Well, the other sort of things that sort of affects that, I suppose also I've moved on to the next slide already.
No, no, I
Yeah, I
agree.
think we're on the next slide. So I mean, I suppose one of the other things that affects what people choose to eat is, sort of how much it will cost. So eating on a budget, some foods are quite expensive that you might see mentioned, but it's all about sort of trying to fit that within your budget. And it's achievable, more achievable than what other people sort of realize. So, sort of encourage using supermarket own brands if, sort of trying to stay on a budget. And frozen fruits and veg are really simple way. And they've got really healthy foods, and you just bung them in the freezer and just take them out as and when you need it. You don't need to worry about your fruit and veg getting spoiled and having spent all that money, and now it's spoiled already. But if you keep it in frozen, like I said about the oats, so a lot of people will, you can easily put sort of frozen fruit like blueberries or something, and just put that in your oats. If you do it overnight, it'll defrost, and by the morning you can just eat it. So they're quite quick wins, and you can keep them in your freezer and quite quick options as well when you are sort of like struggling with time. And they do give nutrient-rich options as an easy add-in. So what you want to do is keep around you foods that you can do as an add-in. And they're quite, versatile in use. So, for example, if you have a tin of chickpeas, you can use that in numerous sort of like ideas and recipes and how you can add it into your foods. So you might make a dish with maybe fish and tomato, sort of like base or something. And then if you add in some chickpeas as well, just to add in that extra sort of nutritious benefit from that. And also just using own brands. So nothing wrong, I think, like I mentioned before, nothing wrong with using own brands. A lot of the time, the exact same thing, just obviously paying for that extra branding. So also yellow sticker reductions. A lot of supermarkets have them sort of towards the end of the day. Yellow sticker reductions. If you know you're going to sort of eat it and it looks quite good, then use those as well. There's nothing wrong with those. Um, a lot of people like price comparison websites. So it depends on how you feel about using them, but price comparison websites are quite good as well, just to know who does that sort of like if you have a shopping list, sort of like at the beginning of the week, and this is what I'm going to need for the week, you could bung that into a price comparison website. It could tell you where you can get sort of the most cost-effective outcome, sort of shopping basket, I suppose, for yourselves and stuff. So that's quite a good option as well.
Yeah, very much so. And don't forget, if you buy things reduced, you can always pop them in the freezer and
Mm.
then you plan around them for the following week. So they don't have to be immediately used. It is about just doing something simply, isn't it? So
Yeah.
what next? Maybe transfer your meals to your diary, write a shopping list, and then shop to the list. That's really important. I think we can all, and actually that's what makes it really cost effective is when we use that list. And then think of three meals that you like to eat, and then three lunches, and that can become your core plan for the next week. It becomes really simple. You can factor in maybe creating extra portions in the evening, so you've got those as leftovers for lunch. I will really regularly do that, and I find that really works for me. And it is quite cost and time effective, and something that then takes away the thinking around food. So hopefully that is something that will help and we've whetted your appetite to think this is something I will do more of. Do let us know what you think. We have a final poll. So let's see where we are with that. We are just going to launch that for you now. So what's going on for you now? Are you thinking this is something you're going to do? Do you feel like this may be something that you could add into your life and that might make life a little bit easier for you, let us know. If you have any questions, do let us know as well. We are going to come to your question and answer session in a minute, but just to let you know what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. We got a whole webinar that we're running. I'm running with one of our team all around emotional eating. A really important aspect of weight management is thinking about that aspect of food and why we eat. And then we're going to try a new webinar in a couple of weeks' time, which is all about your questions, simply a whole session around your questions. It will be really interesting to see if you like that. You may love it, you may hate it. We'll wait and see. And then we are going to be talking about stress in the middle of March. So I hope those are of interest to you. And to sign up, we will share the link. And we are now going to come to your questions. Let's have a look at this final poll. So I can see that from the poll here, around 25% of you who've answered are going to start meal planning this week. Well done. Ah, finally got my co-hosts working as co-hosts. There must have been something hiding somewhere. You understand the benefits, but need to make a start. That's around 30%. I can see how it links to consistency and mindset around 40%. So let's go for it, guys. Sanam and I are going to commit to doing this week. Okay, Sanam, aren't we? Adna, hopefully you will too. And let us know next week how you get on. Now, we have something also from the marketing team to share with you. So I'm going to pop some information from the marketing team who are really keen. I'm going to share a link with you. So they're really keen to hear from anybody who has. We're looking for people with real stories from people who've used the Boots Online Doctor service to inspire others on how the service can support you on your health journeys. If you're interested in being involved or would like to know more, the marketing team would like to hear from you. So I'm going to share the email for the marketing team for you. Please don't feel under any level of obligation to be involved in this at all. This is purely for those people who think this would be fun or something they would love to share their story, love to inspire other people. Then please do feel free to reach out to the marketing team. So I've just shared that email now in the chat box for anybody who would like to be involved in that. I'm not sure at the moment how many people they're looking for. Somebody would like to know how to access the recording of the webinar. So, Adna, if you don't mind sharing the link, that would be really great. The webinars are recorded. We also share the link to the recording the day after the webinar. So we capture this information, it then gets sent to the marketing team who put it into YouTube, and then the link is then shared in an email to you afterwards. So you should get a link through by email as well. But obviously not. If for any reason, then do let us know. We will make sure you get that link. Okay, so a few food related questions. What is your view on using protein shakes as part of a plan occasionally? Occasionally, I think. Would you agree, Sanam? I think it's
Yeah.
fine occasionally. I
Mm.
think the research around protein in a protein shake or a protein powder, it varies for everybody. We're all different. So there are some proteins that are going to suit some of us better than others. There are also different qualities of protein powders. I've had a look on Boots website, and actually they have a couple of protein powders which I would be happy for you to try. And that's not because I just for simplicity, that makes sense. Um, the interesting thing is they are a processed food. So I think in terms of their satiety, you might find that it's a little less satisfying than the real food itself. But there's a place for it, and it can really help you reach the target of how much protein you need to eat in that 24 hours. And if you're really struggling to manage that, and you're also struggling with cravings or with feeling satisfied after a meal, then it can be a great add-in. I sometimes recommend adding something like some pea or some rice protein into your sort of savory meals. You can add whey protein as well, or rice proteins. There are a whole variety of different proteins to sort different people and to sort of work around any foods that you don't tolerate for whatever reason. So again, they can be helpful, can't they?
Yeah, just depends on what sort of like, where you're using it and what place it sort of has. So if you think about putting a protein shake for in your meals for life, I might get a bit bored. So you want to sort of aim towards going towards that sort of regular sort of eating plan that you want for life with what we're talking about, I suppose. But occasionally protein shakes are, are fine, like Ruth said. So
Yeah. Somebody was saying there's lots of good apps like slash websites which help with planning. I like Plan to Eat, which also lets you store recipes, track what is left over and what is in your freezer. Wow, I've not come across someone that tracks what's in your freezer. That sounds really interesting. I'm going to give that a go myself. Thank you for sharing that. It's really interesting. Batch cooking portions in freezer definitely is a lifesaver for busy slash bad days. And let's face it, we all have those, don't we? So it's great. Jamie's 15 minutes meals.
I
Um,
might use those.
yeah. I
Yeah.
also use the Michael Mosley. I really like his Mediterranean diet cook
Mm,
and use a lot of those recipes as basis. So it's about finding foods and recipes that you enjoy, isn't it?
mm.
But again, it doesn't have to be a recipe, even it can just be food. What's recommended for supplements? If you're eating a balanced diet, then really the balance of your diet should be adequate, that you don't need to take a multivitamin. If you're taking a GLP-1, the recommendation is that you do take a multivitamin. That's right, isn't it, Sanam?
Yeah, only mainly because a lot of people might be eating less of the vitamins just
Yeah,
because of the sort of, yeah.
maybe struggling to eat quite so
Yeah,
quickly.
exactly.
Um,
Fortified foods are also good, aren't they? I suppose looking at towards fortified foods, if you are choosing what to eat, sometimes some, of healthy sort of foods do come fortified with certain ingredients as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's worth looking at different foods and seeing what they have in them, isn't it? So, yeah, definitely. I would just say a basic multivitamin if you're a female and you're menstruating, one with iron. If you're a male or a non-menstruating female, then you want to be thinking about a multivitamin without iron, just because you don't need to replace that iron so much. So just see where you are in your life stage. They often have life stage vitamins as well, so have a look at those. Okay, so somebody's saying they're using the Boots Tracker app, can't see where to add your weight and waist measurement. I don't know it well enough off the top of my head to advise you about that, but I will have a look at mine on my phone and I will come back with some suggestions around that next week. But I know that they do send you a prompt every week to add that information, so there's definitely somewhere I just can't think. Do you know, Sanap?
no, I don't know, but I do know that they do change it to send in a prompt where you
Yeah.
can add it. I think it's a prompt, but I know there is somewhere you can add it. So we can have a look at that and get back.
Okay, cool. All righty. We'll answer you next week. Sorry, we can't immediately. Ready meals and pre-packed salads. Okay, if in a rush for variety, I waste a lot of salad veg if bought separately, so not cost effective. I know how you feel completely. I love one thing I do when the weather is getting warmer is I make jars of salad. Even just old jam jars, and you literally chop up different salad veg. So this cuts down on the waste significantly, and you make up maybe 5 jars for the week, and you put each of those veg into the salad jar, add your protein on the day if you want to. So you could have some cold eggs or some beans or some chickpeas or some chicken or fish, whatever you want, just add that. You can add your dressing, and interestingly enough, those salads in jars keep for that whole week. And that can be a really simple way of just making it a little bit more cost effective and also cutting down on the prep as well. So,
It's quite a good idea, Ruth. I might
honestly,
snag
I
that
love
idea
it.
of
I
yours.
don't
So
know where I came across that idea. I did see it somewhere. Of course, all knowledge is shared, isn't it, really? But I sort of like came into my world 2 or 3 years ago. And it's just like life-changing. So
Mm.
really simple. But if you're, with the pre-packed salads, they do tend to have quite a lot of sort of elements sprayed on them to keep the salad fresh. That's why I'm not such a huge fan of them. But of course, they've got a place. Everything has a place. Like if you're having one of those days, eating one of those salads is going to be eating better than eating something that isn't
Exactly.
healthy. So it's sort of like everything has a place, doesn't it?
Mm.
If we're leaning into them and we're using them all of the time, then maybe it's worth trying my little salad jar ideas. See how you get on with those. Great. Can I check the protein calculation? I'm 80 kilograms. Does that mean I should aim to eat around 80 grams of protein per day? No.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. So does that mean I should aim to eat 240 grams of chicken to say get that quantity of protein? Great question. So if you've got the protein guide, I think per 100 grams of chicken, it's around 25 grams of protein. So whatever, David, sorry for answering by your name, I hope you don't mind. And that calculation would be 100 grams would give you 25 grams. So 200 grams would give you 50 grams. 300 grams would give you
About 75.
75 grams. So yeah, you're going to be eating around 300 grams-ish of chicken. And that would really be something to consider. And actually, one of the things we haven't perhaps mentioned is the importance of variety. Like if you can bring in variety, different protein sources across the week or across the day, that can really help. Different proteins have different amino acids. Those amino acids are the building blocks of our cells, which is why we want variety as much as possible. But start wherever you are. Don't overcomplicate it. Be on a journey. If bringing that protein in 3 times means eating chicken a few times a week to begin with, and you feel better for it, and that's great. Next step is bring the variety in, I would say.
Yeah, I was thinking do it step by step. I think people try to always try to do everything together and like sort of make sure everything's fresh and make sure everything's in, but it's really quite difficult. So be easy on yourselves.
Yeah. Somebody's saying they've been having oats with dates, prunes, and bananas, which has been great for digestion and for the bowel movements. But I'm wondering if I can alternate this with because it's getting boring eating the same thing every day. Yeah, boredom is just the killer, isn't it? Is that I presume that's for your breakfast? It sounds delicious. It does sound a little bit high in natural sugar, which probably makes it naturally quite sweet and enjoyable. You could try adding some, maybe making like a chia pudding if you're thinking about how your bowels are working. So things like having some natural Greek yogurt, adding a couple of tablespoons or yeah, heaped dessert spoons of chia seeds into that. Maybe putting a little bit of milk in there for sort of the consistency and some frozen berries. Maybe a few chopped nuts if you like that crunch in there. Letting that sit overnight. Again, it's a really simple thing and would be really easy to make and bring in different flavors for the morning. So see how you go with that. What would you give? What would you say, Sam?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Sometimes do that. You can get like sort of sugar-free granolas and stuff as well. So if you want to, like you said, if you want a bit of a crunch, you can add that, sprinkle that on your yogurt. There's things like that, sort of just to change it up a little bit. And if it's for breakfast, think if there's any other things that you like eating. It doesn't always have to be oats. You can try eggs or whatever you sort of wish. But
Yeah, definitely. Somebody is giving some advice. Thank you, Donna. On the Beach Tracker app, adding weight is on the settings, the little cog at the bottom of the app. There you go. Thank you for that. That was very helpful. What salad dressings do we recommend? I love just a really simple salad dressing with olive oil and maybe a little bit of cider vinegar, maybe a little bit of garlic. Just really, really, I'm very simple in my taste, so that makes it very simple. I sometimes make myself like one of those sesame oil salad dressings, which again, I really love. That's sort of like sesame oil and lime, maybe a little bit of what's the thing called? Soy sauce or tamari. That can be really delicious as well. What about you, Sanam?
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned they put sumac. I normally use sumac in
Oh
my
yeah.
dressings as well. So whip up a bit of olive oil with a bit of sumac, a bit of lemon as well. I haven't added garlic before actually. I may try that. So that sounds quite nice.
You,
Or just cider vinegar as well, just a little bit of acid. And that's normally what I use. I'm quite repetitive with that actually. I quite like that dressing. Maybe I need to be a bit more
yeah.
adventurous, but
I think we are
that's
all creatures of habit, aren't we? So
yeah.
it's what you become familiar with, isn't it? And again, whisk it up, put it in an old jam jar, shake it up. Very simple, keeps in the fridge for ages. So again,
Mm.
it's simple. It doesn't have to be expensive. If I'm using an olive oil in a salad dressing, I will always use something such as a really good quality olive oil because again, it's not going to be cooked, so it's worth spending that little bit of extra money on. Again, we're all different. That's just something I've done over the last few years. Somebody's asking which type of milk is better. I think it depends on you. Interestingly, from a weight loss perspective, I would be recommending a semi-skimmed or a whole milk. It's not something I suggest we drink a huge amount of. But the semi-skimmed milk, although it's lower in calories, it's it's lower in fat, so it's higher in sugar, I believe. So actually, from a health perspective, it doesn't really make sense when you look at the label. So have a look and see where you go with that. I don't know, somebody's asking for the Tracker app, how we find it. Can you share the link, if possible, to the Tracker app, please? And this is something that we are developing and is constantly being developed and is going to have some more resources added to that over the next few weeks, I believe. Ah, okay. All right. I can talk to the Tracker app creators if there are specific problems people are having. So let's see. Great, we've got the resource there. Perfect. Good. I eat far too many bags of crisps when I'm hungry. What is an alternative? Love that question, and thank you for your honesty. You are not going to be alone. It's funny how we have those things, don't we, that just are our go-to crazy things. I think don't let yourself get to the point where you're hungry. Don't buy the crisps in the first place. If you do buy the crisps for other people in your family, put them somewhere else in your kitchen so that when you go to eat them in that moment, they're not there. And actually, just putting that break in that whole sort of habit can really help you change that habit. And what to eat instead? Olives are fantastic. They're a very personalized taste, something you grow into, I would say. But they are naturally really salty. So they're great. Air fried chickpeas, Alison is saying, are a great alternative. Has anybody ever made kale crisps? They're really delicious, really easy to make. Again, you can cook them in 5 to 10 minutes. You literally just get some kale, massage a little bit of olive oil, put some parmesan on if you like a cheesy flavor, or some wasabi if you like something spicy. You can do all sorts of things. And then you just put them on a baking tray, pop them in your oven, but keep an eye on them because they go from zero to hero. And again, they can be kept in an airproof, airtight box. And they're really delicious and really healthy too, relatively. Um, so a few people seem to be having trouble with the tracker app updating. I will report this through to our team who are creating that tracker app and let them know that some of you are having problems and see if there's anything they can advise us to advise you, and we'll let you know next week. So what are you going to eat instead of crisps? So we've got a few ideas. Maybe drinking a nice big glass of water might be good. Maybe adding a little bit of salt into water might be good. Maybe you're craving that salt. Sometimes I find people really do crave salt. So it sounds pretty revolting, but actually adding a little bit of iodized salt or some rock salt might help. Popcorn, that's another great idea. I'm loving your ideas. You're coming up with way better ideas than me today. Thank you for your brains. We appreciate it, no end. And what would you have instead of crisps?
I do quite like nuts. when I not particularly salty ones, but actually because when you crave crisps, it's sort of that saltiness that I normally crave. And I do that. I've stopped buying crisps so that they're not in the house anymore. So then that way I'm less inclined. If anybody does buy them, it's quite likely that I'm going to want to have them. But I quite like nuts, and sometimes just for a bit of salt, I do have a bit of salty, so cashew nuts or something, but or almonds. But that's
I
a
sometimes air fry my nuts just to give them that,
oh, okay. That's quite
and they just elevate them as a snack, just something really crunchy that replicates the crisps. So give that a go as
yeah.
well. And you could even sprinkle on some rock salt or some sea salt for minerals. Prawns or anchovies instead of crisps. Yeah, also a little piece of cheese like a baby bell might work. It's about just catching ourselves before we fall. If you're somebody who likes crisps and then likes more crisps, you could find very easily that you've eaten a couple of packets before you've even taken breath. So
And there is that sort of nudge effect as well, where everything that you see and you do have around you, you're more likely to eat it. If it is in the cupboards, you are less likely to eat it. Sort of
yeah,
when shown in sort of various sort of
don't buy it.
this,
That's my answer.
yeah, or don't buy it. That would be the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
thing
yeah.
to do. So
Yeah, and also somebody is saying about lemon in water. Is that helpful in the mornings? I believe it does help a little bit to give our liver a little bit of a sort of freshen up, if you like. I'm not sure it's a massive detox, but again, it may help. And in terms of fat burning, we know that water is really important for helping this thing called lipolysis, which is fat burning. So if you're dehydrated, you will find it very difficult to lose weight. And if you're well hydrated, you'll find it slightly easier. So hydration is really important. So really good to bring that up. Somebody's saying chickpeas like the kale, just with a little bit of olive oil, seasoning, paprika, curry powder, pop in the oven for about 20 minutes, 160 degrees. Here we are, we're turning into a cooking program, and give it a shake after 10 minutes. So fantastic. Really good. I'll try those, I think. I haven't done chickpeas. I've thought about it, but never, maybe did it once ages ago, not very successfully. So thank you. All right, well, that brings us, I think, nicely to the end of your questions. To watch the replay, there is a replay link. Adna, if you could share that again. Um, Single portion bags, if you must have crisps. I think it's a danger stranger thing, isn't it? Like, for each of us, we have our little Achilles heel. For me, there are some, I'm sure there are for some of us. The recording link's been reshared by Adna. Thank you so much to Adna. Um, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We've loved having you here. We're back next week. We're going to be talking all about emotional eating. Do sign up. We'll share the sign up link with you. I don't know if you don't mind quickly sharing that sign up link. That would be amazing. And I'm going to be joined by Mega, who's one of the team of GPs at Boots Online Doctor next week for that emotional eating webinar. Again, it is fascinating and something that isn't talked about enough. So hopefully you'll all be inspired to think a little bit about menu planning. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't feel like your food has to look perfect. It really doesn't. And it's just about getting those nutrients in, isn't it? So good
yeah.
luck with that, everyone. And thank you so much to Sanam and Adna for joining me today. And really look forward to seeing you all next week.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.